So here we are, Christmas again, and it's ever old and it's ever new, and it reminds me of the line of St. Augustine, late have I loved thee, O beauty so ancient and so new, late have I loved thee. And he knew it very well for us all, because we always feel a little bit late in things sometimes, especially when it comes to the big things in life. But however, we get there, and we're very grateful to have this beautiful teaching that helps us to get there more speedily. And so we're here tonight because love has gathered us together, to come together to celebrate something that is as old and as new as any eternal now moment. And it's something that goes on in every eternal now moment. We are here to celebrate a happening. And it's a happening that not only took place 2,000 years ago. That's the very small aspect of the celebration. It's the happening that takes place in us every single moment we recognize that we are more than we think we are, and that there is something great within us that is always endeavoring to express itself more fully. And that's why we're here today. And so when we look at the whole story of Christmas, it's so filled with rich symbology. You know, that the life, glorious itself, would come and be wrapped in swaddling clothes and laid in a manger. It's a lovely story. But it's about the understanding that the divine life enters into human form, which is the swaddling clothes, in a manger, which is the human condition. And nevertheless, the glory shines all around and about that life form, from within and without. But we could be here until next Christmas going into the symbology, the metaphysical understanding of the Christmas story. But we're here, and it's here and now. So love has gathered us together to celebrate the individualized expression of Christ-conscious awareness within each and every one of us, especially in this room, but also in every living thing. In every living thing. We have an amazing example in the master lover and wayshore Jesus of Nazareth. And long before Jesus walked this plane, Christ consciousness was blazing throughout the universe and was within every living thing. But he was one of the ones that came amongst us to show us how it is imaged within, in a very powerful, strong way, each one of us. And that's something that we don't always get. And even now, in this time, we find it hard to be able to be comfortable with that, at home with that, so at home and so comfortable with it that we think from it, and we feel from it, and we do from it. But we don't most of the time. Most of the time we forget it, and that's why we get ourselves into all kinds of trouble, and we invite all kinds of circumstances and situations into our lives that are not exactly what we would do if we were indeed comfortable with the awareness of the Christ presence within us and familiar with it in that way. And so we give thanks, though, for this great wayshore in this particular evening. But like Meister Eckhart, when he said, if Christ was born 1,500 years ago in a stable at Bethlehem, because it was 1,500 years for him at that time, what does it matter to me if that Christ is not born within me every single day of my life? That's the only thing that matters. And so we're here to celebrate the life of that greatness and that moreness that is within each one of us this evening in a special way, in a profound way. And it's something that's a very familiar experience, this thing called Christmas or Christ conscious awareness long before when our ancestors walked the plains too, when the Vikings looked up into the skies at this time of year when the heavens were filled with more stars than they were sky. They were profoundly moved too. The same impulse within you and me this night was very present and palpable within them too. To the point that they had the sense that at this time of year, something different was happening, something special was happening. There was a different energy around, something different in the air, and it was something that moved them to draw aside and reflect too, and to prepare for celebration, to celebrate the winter solstice, to celebrate this great blazing light that existed in life and living, and to be glad and rejoice at the end of the dark days and the bringing again of the light into the lives of the people. They celebrated the end and the beginning of cycles in that. But they had the very same impulse and the very same feeling and the same awe and the same wonder as they looked up into the night sky and saw it ablaze with all of those stars. And as well as that, as the light reflected on the evergreens around them when everything else had withered up in nature and had seemingly died. Here were these burgeoning, life-filled evergreens sparkling with life. And they had a sense of awe about those evergreens, and they included them in their rituals and in their ceremonies, and they represented to them something bigger and greater than themselves, something more. The very same way as it does for you and me every time we enter into a ritual and we take ourselves out of the everyday world, out of the marketplace, and enter into the spiritual realm, into the interior experience of life and living, and allow ourselves to be still enough and quiet enough to sense the energy that is palpable, that is present. Since that first great almighty burst of cosmic breath brought everything into being, we experience this sense within us, this instinct within us to recognize the more, something greater than ourselves. And we, thankfully, who are becoming more spiritually skilled, not only recognize it out there, but we recognize it within ourselves. And this is a living principle, this thing, this burst of cosmic energy. It's a living principle. It's a palpable force that drives us and moves us into understanding that that breath of life came into being so that everything that came out of it, everything that it created, could express itself more fully and more fully and more fully all of the time. That there would be an evolution that occurred within the life force, within every living thing, that would evolve itself into something greater and something more than it was in the beginning. And that's where we are, in this process of evolution, understanding that that is what cosmic love is all about, because the great breath of life that breathes everything into being was the breath of cosmic love. And that's what this night is all about. And it's not a love that you write about and that can be erased. And it's not a love that can be chiseled into stone, because stone can be broken. It is a love that penetrates the deep recesses of the heart and fills it and remains there everlastingly with its brilliance and its brightness and its unconditioned and unconditional energy that any one of us can draw from and do great things, as Jesus said we could. It is a love that causes us to remember that we're not here to take from the good of life, but we're here to add to it, to bring to it, to give to it from that moreness within ourselves. We're here to be the light, the love, and the light out of which we came to express as life and light and love. And that's what the Christmas season is all about, and that's what it draws up and out from us, as we see in an outpouring of generosity that we don't see throughout the rest of the year. An amazing outpouring of selflessness and carefulness and sharing that we don't see throughout the rest of the year at that collective level that we see it now. Why is this a most important night? Why is it the night of nights? Why is it that it's special and holy? Are not all nights special and holy? Yes, they are. But this night is singular because all over the world, very many millions of the family of man gather together like you and I to focus on something more than themselves, to focus on that unconditioned and unconditional love, to identify with it a bit more fully, so that perhaps, just perhaps, we could leave the experience feeling that some kind of transformation has occurred, something has happened, because we follow the response and the impulse of love to gather here together and to remember that what we're celebrating is the self of ourselves, the Christ within us, and the Christ within every person on this plane and every living thing. That's why we're here. Some of us may think we're here because we were dragged here, or we were made to come here, or we just came cause. Not so. It doesn't happen like that. Everything is purposeful in life. We're here because we're on purpose. And it's a great and glorious thing to realize that. I could be so many other places, but I'm not. I'm right here. And the reason why I'm here is because this gives me an opportunity in this room, in this sanctuary, to focus, to center myself in the awareness of the greatness of the being that I am. And to remember I'm not just my titles. I'm not just my achievements and my accomplishments. I am not just my stuff and things. And I certainly am not my failures and my lack. I am so much more than that. And the story of Christmas is to remember and to remind ourselves that the Christ light is only born in consciousness within us when we wake up. But that Christ life has always been with us and will ever be with us. It didn't go anywhere. When it entered into this being, this individualized expression of itself, it remained, it settled down, and it remains. And so what we're celebrating when we talk about the birth of this and the birth of that, it's the wakening up a little bit more and a little bit more into the recognition, into the consciousness that here the Christ, believe it or not, is individualized in me, however I am, and how awful I may have been until this very moment in time. Nevertheless, through all my awfulness and terribleness and whatever else I might think I've been, that Christ light was as brilliant and magnificent as the moment I came into creation. And it can never be diminished, no matter what. It can never. I can try and debase it. I can try and forget about it. But try as I might, sooner or later, I will wake up. I will wake up. And so, as I remind us, when we look out into the world and dream, that's the exterior thing. But when we look into the world within ourselves, we awake. We look out and ponder and reflect, we dream. When we look in, we awake. And then when we do, we say to ourselves, what's it all about, Alfie? That's the first thing we do. We say, what's it all about? What's all the freneticism about? What's all the getting and spending about? What's all the collecting and gathering about? What's all the drivenness out there? What is that about? In this coming week, I am going to remember, and people forget that, especially here, I don't know why, in Europe they remember it a little bit more. Tomorrow will be the first day of Christmas. There are 12 days of Christmas, and tomorrow is the first. And the 12th night, the last one is on the 6th of January. So Christmas only begins tomorrow, and it goes on for 12 days. So I'm going to invite us. I hear groans somewhere. It goes on for 12 days. And I'm going to invite us for those 12 days to light a candle every day, to celebrate the Christ-conscious awareness within the self, of yourself. For 12 days, to light that candle and to pause for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, first to honor that Christ light within yourself and then within all else besides, and to ask yourself, what do I really want for myself and what do I really want for the world in this coming new year? 2 minutes out of your day for 12 days, and I'm hoping the habit will have formed by the 12th day. We're quick learners. And that's what I'm asking us to do so that we can keep the recognition of the Christ conscious awareness alive. Because you see, at Christmas time, it's as though this great cosmic love weaves a beautiful blanket of amazing love and throws it all over the world and warms it for as long as we maintain the recognition of the Christ Spirit within ourselves and within our world. And so those 12 days hopefully will help us all to keep that blanket warming up the world and keep us all a little bit kinder, a little bit more awake and alert, a little bit more giving, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more present perhaps to life and living, and not again get caught up in all the hurry and all the flurry. And that's a hard thing to do. I know. It's a kind of a big up to this point in time and then a diminuendo for a little while. But keep the calm and the quietness going. And it's good to do practical things to keep us awake and alert. And that practical thing of lighting a candle, something magical about candles anyway. Lighting a candle to honor the Christ within yourself. I mean, when did you last pause to honor the Christ within yourself? Can you remember? When did you last pause to salute and honor the Christ within yourself? And bless that presence. And know that from that, you live, you move, and you have your being. And if you are connected with it and identified with it, and you think from it, and you feel from it, and you act from it, you will walk on water, and it'll be a piece of cake. Easy. That would be easy. But more than that, you will recognize that fire and that light and that presence within everybody you meet, and in all circumstances and situations in your life and living. And you will always be able to say, no matter what's happening, good comes out of this. But good only comes out of things when you know that good comes out of this. You can't say, oh, I hope something good comes out of this. It's not going to. You have to be convicted. You have to be powerful. You have to be almighty. And you have to be what you are in truth. And the Christmas story tells us what we are is wonderful. What we are is mighty. What we are princes of peace. Everlasting, infinite spirit. That's what the Christmas story says to us. This is the truth of our being, and that's what we are. Is this what we identify with daily? Do I say to myself daily, oh, I can handle this because after all I'm wonder. I am almighty. I am Prince of Peace. I am eternal, everlasting spirit. So I can handle it, bring it on. Now, we could do that if we remembered. And we could say, oh, this is all sweet and nice sitting here in this room and it's great and we go along with it, but as soon as we go out the door, life just begins to happen again. It needn't happen that way. this could be the moment when you and I really get it. This could be a transforming moment for us all. We could go through that door differently than we came in if we would say yes to the Christ within us, knowing that it is power, it is its presence, it is from that any good thing we do, we do. Any good thought we think, any good feeling we have. Not from ourselves, but from that Christ Spirit of amazing grace within us. That's what our good thoughts come from, and our good feelings and our good deeds. As you've heard me say before, our naughtiness is our own creation. We can say, yes, certainly that's mine. That's mine. My naughtiness is mine. But all of the good is not my own. It is the good of the one who sent me, as Jesus would say. And so, what is it going to be? Another year of the same old, the same situations, the same ailments, the same complaints, the same blah, blah, blah? Or is it going to be different? Because it can. And the way it's different is to set an intention. You have to make a choice, make a decision, and then you have to set it as an intention, and then you have to back it up and follow it up with everything you think and say and do and feel. That's the way life changes. A set intention that came out of a conscious, deliberate, purposeful choice. This would be the week to be thinking along those terms and to be making adjustments. And here's the way life changes, a little bit at a time. Don't overdo it and set yourself up for failure. Just a little change at a time. A little change here, a little change there. And then you hardly notice it, and by the end of the year, you look around and you say, oh my gosh, I have been transformed in this past year because of what happened when the Christ consciousness entered into life and living long before our good dear friend Jesus walked on this plane. But he was the one that showed it and manifested the greatest of all, and did so by becoming the world's greatest lover. That's how he manifested the Christ light, the Christ life, and the Christ consciousness. And that's how you and I get to do it too. I know in this room there are people who are sad. There are people who are hurting. There are people who may have cried themselves to sleep last night. There are people who are trying to make decisions about whatever. I know that. But what I know more than that is you're not in that alone. There is a power, there is a presence available to you, longing for your invitation. Longing for your invitation to hand it up and give it over and surrender it to that power, to that presence, knowing exactly how to handle it, what to do with it, and to take you through it and to leave you the other side the better for it all. You are not alone. You don't have to do it alone. That presence is palpable. That presence is right where you are. It doesn't matter if you cannot feel it. You don't have to feel it to begin with. You just have to say yes to it. Open your mind to believing in it and open yourself to saying yes to it. And if you do, the feeling will come and then transformation will occur. You are not alone. And in the meantime, you can reach out to all that other Christ presence around and about you that is available to you too, through all the wonderful people that care. And there are many people who care in this way. So I'm going to leave you with that understanding and that awareness. In our good times, in our sad times, in our painful times, in our sick times, whatever the times are, that power, that presence that embraced us in the beginning, never, never let us go, continuously embraces us, is always there for us to lean into. And if we just surrender to it and say, I don't know how to deal with this. I give it up. I hand it over. Bless me with the path that opens before me and allows me to move and walk through it with grace, with ease, in peace, in joy. And that will happen. It's happened for many in this room. It can happen for you. And it can happen for those of us who have experienced it before. It can happen again. It's about here, it's about now. That's all this is about. And it's about looking around you and seeing the light that is around you and seeing the peace that is there, the presence that is there for you to enfold you, to lift you up, to welcome you, to embrace you, to reach out to you, to help you. And that's the greater self in you calling you forth to recognize that greater self in another. Help is always at hand, but you have to reach your hand out to receive it. So God, by means of each one of us now, is fully present, awake and alert, open and receptive to knowing more of itself being expressed by you and by me. And that's the truth. It's a real truth. This is not just pie in the sky. I have proven it in my own life. Dr. Frank and Dr. Anita have proven it in their lives over and over and over again. Many of us have. Please receive the invitation with graciousness and say yes to it. Yes to Emmanuel. Come, Emmanuel, God with us, and open our minds and open our hearts to the truth of our being, which is to know ourselves as the one that the world is waiting for, in you and in me. And so it is. So a very peaceful, loving, and blessed and conscious Christmas to you all. And may you enjoy that consciousness throughout the 12 days of Christmas. And bring your loving kindness out there into the world. So let's stand now for the benediction. But before we do, I want to honor Dr. Frank and Dr. Anita who are with us tonight. Would you please stand?